The Houston Texans just got good and bad news, and I think both of them, it's going to be interesting to see how it all pans out. So if you're new to the channel, we're Detroit Lions fans, but we have this channel all about teams that we like talking about and that just don't get the love nationally like they should. Houston Texans are one of those teams that we like on this channel. So here's the good and bad news. Now, let's start with the good. The good news is PFF put out its rankings of edge defenders. And there is Danielle Hunter sitting at 16. Now that might seem like, was that high? Well, remember, there's 2 edge rushers on each team. There's 32 teams. That's 64 guys. So to have a guy in like the top 15, top 16 is really good. So here it is. Hunter quietly recorded double-digit sacks in each of the past 2 seasons with nearly identical pass rushing grades and 85 and 84 pressures totals, respectively. Now, here's the first good news. You've got a premier pass rusher and a guy that's not on the downswing, right? So a guy is his age, or you get this free agent that's older. I think he's 29, 30. And you'd say, well, last couple of years, down. That's not the case with him. He's getting double-digit sacks. His PFF grades are staying right where they need to be. And I really like that. Now, if you don't like PFF, or I don't know how you feel about PFF, I love PFF for a couple, for a few, not a few, but for select positions. Edge is one of those because we know sacks, but you can affect the game in so many other ways. And this is one of them. Is pressures. You can move the quarterback off of their spot, pass rushing grades, and everything that goes into that. So I think PFF's really good for defensive ends and edge rushers. So here's the good news. With Hunter now in Houston, he can now perform at a high level opposite of Will Anderson Jr. So in PFF's rankings, you go down a little bit more, and you've got Will Anderson Jr. at 20th. So you've got 2 pass rushers in the top 20 out of 64 pass rushers. Will Anderson, very solid in his rookie campaign. I love this. He had 68 quarterback pressures. Now remember, Danielle Hunter was up in the 80 range. So he gets quarterback pressures. Now you combine him with another legit, really good pass rusher. And so now the good news is, when you look at pass rushing grades and you look at what PFF has, Houston Texans have 2 really good defensive ends. This is the essence of defense. Is it in a passing league? You got to be able to get to the quarterback, move the quarterback. It's not all about sacks. It's just about the threat of guys. It's about, there's a little bit of a rush. I got to step up in the pocket. Like, there's a lot more to it than just straight up sacks. And Will Anderson Jr. and Danielle Hunter complete a really good defensive side of the ball for the Houston Texans. Now, let's get to the bad news that they got. Same thing, PFF. Now, I like PFF, like I said, for a couple positions, defensive end and corner. So in this next article, and here's the bad news, it is one reason why each AFC team won't make the playoffs in 2024. And for the Houston Texans, and I agree with this, their former first-round cornerbacks don't work out. So Houston Texans go out in free agency, and it's low risk, high reward. Jeff Okudah and CJ Henderson, they sign both of those guys. Who's going to start opposite of Stingley Jr.? Stingley is great. And he's like the guy that you want, right? But what about Jeff Okudah and CJ Henderson? One of these guys has to step up. And in fact, the other guy has to be a really good backup, right? For depth. When you look at Jeff Okudah, and happen to know him well, being a Detroit Lions fan, he got drafted to the Lions, number 3 overall. He comes into a bad franchise for that first year. Then he gets injured. Then the coaching staff turns over. The guys that drafted him leave. The new regime comes in. They're like, see ya. We're trading you. He gets traded. It's just been this up and down. Hasn't been able to get steady. Well, now he comes into the Houston Texans, where he's got a defensive-minded head coach. He can fit right in. There's not a lot of pressure. He's trying to win a starting job. Maybe he can, maybe he can't. and it feels so much better for Jeff Okudah. Same thing with CJ Henderson. There's not a lot of pressure on these guys. Now, one of them has to rise up, and the competition between the two of them, somebody will be there and be a player that you need. But if both fail, this is where the bad news is. It's like, man, because I've witnessed it as a Lions fan. You've got one good corner, and the other side, it's like, man, you can't find anybody to get in there, and the other team can just run wild on you, and it's very difficult and frustrating and hard. So Nick Caserio has said, hey, I'm going to get in two of them, right? I'm going to kind of hedge my bet and try to get in two guys that could maybe be something for us on that side. But if they're not, that's how the Houston Texans don't make the playoffs. Now, the good news is there's other teams that won't make the playoffs or for other reasons, right? So you look in your division with the Indianapolis Colts. What's one reason that they won't make the playoffs? Well, easy. Anthony Richardson isn't what he's all cracked up to be. Now, I think he's going to be good. He's big, he's strong, all these things. But what if he's limited in injuries? What if he can't get his footing? What if it takes him 6 games to figure things out and get back? Indianapolis Colts are going to struggle, right? So there's other teams and there's other problems out there. Like, right, don't worry if you're a Houston Texans fan, that I think one of those two guys will emerge and they will be just fine. So again, if you're new to the channel, we're Detroit Lions fans. We have this channel. And if you've watched a few videos by now, you're a Texans fan, would love if you would subscribe. And also let me know in the comments, are you planning to go to a Houston Texans game this year in person? The Lions go to Houston. I think it's a Sunday night game. But I think it's a primetime game, so really looking forward to that. Do you attend Houston Texans games? Do you rather watch them at home? Kind of what do you think there? It's interesting because as the Lions have gotten a lot better, obviously supply and demand, everybody wants to be there, and so I love going to games, but I've also appreciated being home, and it's such a easier experience. Be home, watching it crystal clear in your own house, making some dips, some chips and dip, and you're watching that, you're flipping around, you're stepping outside for a second, kind of getting your bearings. It's easy. It's comfortable and easy to watch football from home rather than going. Now, when you do go, it's fun, love it. But let me know in the comments if you go to Houston Texans game and kind of what that looks like. And if you plan to go to the Lions game, man, the Lions, it's going to be a great game. That's going to be like two similar teams, good quarterbacks, playmakers all over the place, up and coming, rising teams, good quarterbacks, good coaches, good franchises. All of a sudden, it's awesome. So let me know your thoughts in the comments, and we'll see all of you on the next one.